After her boyfriend dumped her, the girl let a man take her virginity. Unexpectedly, he was a CEO. Hey there, lovely soul, welcome back to Noah's Stories. Have you ever trusted someone so deeply, only to watch them shatter your heart in a single moment? Tonight's story is about betrayal, resilience, and finding light after the darkest storm. Settle in. You're about to meet Olivia. In the heart of bustling New York City, Olivia Bennett stood alone in her upscale apartment, candlelight flickering gently across white walls and the faint scent of fresh roses hanging in the air. A rising fashion designer, Olivia had spent her youth clawing her way up from nothing, each sketch, each seam stitched with the hunger to prove herself. And now, it felt like everything was finally falling into place. Tomorrow, she was set to marry Daniel Carter, her longtime boyfriend, the man she once believed would be her forever. Her wedding dress, one she had designed herself, hung gracefully in the corner, soft as a stream of white silk, shimmering under the chandelier. She stepped closer, running her fingers along the delicate fabric, imagining herself walking down the aisle, Daniel waiting at the end, his eyes warm and full of love. But deep down, a quiet unease had crept in. Lately, Daniel had grown distant. He blamed work, disappeared during the moments she needed him most. Olivia had brushed it off, telling herself it was just the pre-wedding stress. Tonight, though, she wouldn't wait around. She would go to their new apartment, the one they'd chosen together as their future home, and surprise him. What Olivia didn't know was that within just a few hours, her entire world would fall apart. The night had deepened, yet New York streets still pulsed with taxi horns and flashing lights. Olivia pulled on her coat, her heart fluttering with anticipation as she imagined surprising Daniel. She pictured his face lighting up as he opened the door. Startled, overjoyed, she still believed in that love. Until the door unlocked. She stepped into the apartment, the one they'd chosen together, decorating it piece by piece for their shared future. But what met her eyes wasn't warmth. It was a sight she would never unsee. Daniel, arms wrapped around another woman, right in the middle of their living room. And not just any woman. Marissa Bennett, Olivia's half-sister. Time froze. Marissa gave a soft chuckle, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "You're early," she said, her voice honeyed and sharp as glass. Daniel flinched, face pale, lips parting but no sound escaping. Olivia stood frozen. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't cry. All she could do was turn and flee. The sound of her heels echoed hollowly against the hard wood as she raced away from the apartment that once symbolized hope. The night wind lashed against her face like whips, but the real pain came from within, from a heart ripped in two. The man she loved, the girl she had once tried to love like family. Both had shattered every ounce of trust she had clung to. She didn't know where she was going. When she finally came to, she was perched at the bar of a sleek, upscale lounge, bathed in low lighting and soft jazz. A glass of whiskey slid toward her, and Olivia downed it in one go. She didn't want to think, didn't want to feel. Just for tonight, she wanted to forget. The bar buzzed with life, but to Olivia, everything felt blurred behind a wall of burning whiskey. She sat still, fingers curled around an empty glass, her heart in knots, the pain too fresh to name. A calm, deep voice spoke beside her. "Rough night, huh?" Olivia looked up. A man in a dark suit, hair neatly combed, eyes deep enough to see straight through the shell she was trying to hold together. She smirked slightly, almost bitter. "You have no idea," she replied, her voice hoarse. He introduced himself, Julian Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Capital, a name not unfamiliar in the fashion world. His firm backed several top-tier brands Olivia had once dreamed of working with. They started with small talk, but somehow the conversation shifted to betrayal, grief, and the slow-burning rage rising inside her. "I don't want revenge," she whispered, almost lying to herself. "But I want them to know how deeply they've broken me." Julian didn't flinch. He leaned in slightly. "I can help you," he said. "There's a gala tonight, big one. Come with me. Be my wife, just for the evening. Let them see you, not broken, but rising." Olivia stared at him. The idea was absurd, but in his gaze there was something, an uncanny understanding that made her nod. She didn't know why, but she trusted him. An hour later, Olivia arrived at the gala looking as though heartbreak had never touched her. A fitted silk gown hugged her frame, her hair swept into an elegant bun, and her eyes held a sharpness that surprised even her. Julian had arranged everything seamlessly, from the dress and the car to how she walked beside him hand in hand like they were a real couple. The gala, held at a luxury hotel in the heart of Manhattan, was filled with New York's fashion and financial elite. As Julian entered with Olivia on his arm, heads turned. Whispers followed. Who is she? When did Julian get married? A new power couple? Olivia felt like she was playing a role, but, strangely, it didn't feel fake. She held her chin high, smiled softly, as if she'd never been broken. Julian remained close, his hand resting lightly on her back, a simple gesture that made her feel less alone. Toward the end of the night, the two of them stood quietly on a balcony. Julian turned to her. I have another proposal, he said. Pretend to be my wife, not just tonight. You help keep Charlotte at bay, and I'll help you rebuild everything you lost. Olivia stared at him, silent. She thought of Daniel, of Marissa, of the wedding dress still hanging in her room. Then she looked into Julian's eyes and nodded. Maybe this wasn't just a game. Maybe it was the beginning of something new. 3 days after the gala, Olivia walked into the headquarters of Blackwell Capital, not as someone's fiancé, but as a true fashion designer. Julian had kept his word. She now had her own private office with a view of the Manhattan skyline and a design team dedicated to bringing her ideas to life. At first, Olivia was hesitant. She had never worked in an environment where eyes followed her with both curiosity and quiet doubt. But then, something within her stirred. She picked up her pencil and started to draw. The first lines were shaky, uncertain, but as emotions poured in, her hand moved faster, freer. She designed dresses for women who had been knocked down, but rose again, fierce and proud. Julian would occasionally stop by, standing in the doorway, silently observing. One evening, he picked up a sketch of a bold black gown with sharp, daring cuts. You're better than most I've worked with, he said, his voice steady and warm. Olivia blushed, offering a shy smile. It had been so long since anyone truly saw her talent. They began talking more, about fashion, about values, and eventually about the griefs they carried. One night, standing together on a high balcony, Julian told her about his mother, a gentle artist who died in a suspicious accident orchestrated by his father. Olivia went quiet, then rested her hand on his. I lost my mom too, she whispered. In those quiet spaces, something began to bloom. No longer just collaboration, no longer a performance, but something real, something neither dared to name. Just a few weeks into her work at Blackwell Capital, Olivia felt like herself again. Her office buzzed with sketches, fabrics, mood boards. The hum of sewing machines and bursts of laughter from brainstorming sessions filled the space. Julian kept his word. She had full creative freedom, no pressure, no control. But that peace didn't last long. On a Monday morning, just as Olivia was about to enter a meeting, the office door flew open with such force that heads turned. Marissa Bennett, dressed like she belonged on a fashion magazine cover, stormed in with a folder clutched in her hand and fire in her eyes. You've crossed the line, she hissed. You think you can steal from me and walk away untouched. She flung the folder onto Olivia's desk. Inside was a design, a bold gown with sharp geometric lines, now being promoted as one of Olivia's signature pieces. Olivia paled, not from fear but shock. She knew the sketch. It was hers, drawn months ago, alone in her cramped apartment, trying to rebuild her dream. This is my design, she said, her voice steadier than expected. You know that. My mother and I already filed the lawsuit, Marissa snapped. You're going to lose everything. News of the scandal spread with alarming speed. Media headlines speculated. A few high-profile clients paused communications. Olivia felt the weight of silent judgment in every meeting. No one said it aloud, but they were waiting for her to fall. Julian stepped in immediately. He wasn't just the CEO, he was someone who understood how power and media worked. He brought in top-tier attorneys, traced the metadata on Olivia's original files, and uncovered that Marissa had accessed her old laptop, left behind at their father's house. Just as things began to stabilize, a new storm erupted. This time, it wasn't about Olivia. It was Marissa who became the target. Multiple outlets released stories accusing her of a history of design theft. Her reputation crumbled overnight. Sponsors vanished. Clients disappeared. Olivia was stunned. She hadn't leaked anything, but someone had, and they had done it with surgical precision. "Charlotte," Julian said, setting a newspaper on her desk. "She's sending a message. Stay quiet or you're next." That afternoon, Marissa called. Her voice trembled with rage. "You tore me down to climb higher, didn't you? Even my last bit of dignity. You took that too?" The call ended in silence. Olivia standing on the balcony with Julian. Olivia whispered, "Why does she hate me so much?" Her eyes traced the sparkling skyline. Julian's voice was low. "Because you have what she wants, talent, strength, and now a place she never could reach." Olivia tightened her grip on the railing. Sometimes, the truth hurt more than the lies. The night of Olivia's debut collection show at Blackwell Capital marked more than just a professional milestone. It was a testament to her survival. Each piece on the runway told a story of pain turned into power. Backstage, Olivia stood tall, her heart pounding, but steady. The venue glittered with light. Fashion elites filled the seats. Julian stood quietly at the back of the room, his gaze fixed on her, solid and steady like an anchor. The collection was a triumph. Applause echoed across the room. Olivia allowed herself a small smile, relief washing over her. Then a scream shattered the moment. She turned and saw Marissa charging from the shadows with a silver knife in hand, face twisted with rage and grief. "You took everything from me," she shrieked. "My career, my name, and Daniel." Olivia stumbled backward, fear clenching her chest, but before the blade could touch her, a figure stepped in front. Daniel, he placed himself between the sisters, taking the knife full force to the chest. Olivia screamed as he fell, catching him in her arms. Blood bloomed across his white shirt. "I'm sorry," he whispered, breath shallow. "I never stopped loving you." And then he was gone. Chaos erupted. Security rushed in, pinning down a sobbing Marissa. Olivia knelt beside Daniel's lifeless body, tears streaming down her face. She had once hated him, wished he'd disappear, but not like this. In that instant, all the bitterness dissolved. What remained was a heart breaking over something it once held dear. After the shocking attack at the fashion show, chaos erupted. Flashbulbs went off like lightning, reporters swarmed, and security scrambled to control the crowd. In the middle of it all, Olivia felt hollow, numb. As she stepped out from backstage, two men in staff uniforms approached from behind. One grabbed her arm, the other pressed a cloth soaked in chemicals over her face. She struggled, but her consciousness faded fast. Across the room, Julian saw it happen. He shouted and ran, but the crowd blocked his path. He reached the emergency door just in time to see it slam shut. Olivia awoke in a dim warehouse, wrists tied, ankles bound. A single flickering bulb cast eerie shadows on the cracked floor. Standing before her was Charlotte Reed, composed, elegant, and merciless. "You should have known when to back off," Charlotte said coolly, nudging a folder toward her. "Sign over your shares in Wentworth, do it, or you'll never leave this place." Olivia gripped the arms of the chair, eyes defiant. "I won't let you take anything else from me." Just then, the warehouse doors burst open. Julian stormed in with a full security team, weapons drawn. "Step away from her," he shouted. Charlotte spun around, but it was too late. Within seconds, the guards tackled her men and restrained her, then moved in on Charlotte as she backed away. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted extortion, and assault," one officer said firmly. Olivia gasped, breath shaking, but her eyes no longer wavered. Julian rushed to her, untied her quickly, and took her hands in his. For the first time in what felt like forever, Olivia felt safe. After the kidnapping, all masks came off. Charlotte Reed was charged with overwhelming evidence, video footage, witness testimony, and her history of corporate manipulation. Once a symbol of elegance and power, she now sat wordless in court. Her sentence stripped not just her freedom, but every ambition she had clawed her way toward. Marissa Bennett faced murder charges for the attack at the runway. The trial was swift. Olivia sat quietly in the back, not crying, just mourning what could have been if her sister had chosen a different path. A few days later, Eleanor Pierce came to see her. The stepmother who once turned a blind eye now stood before her, disheveled and shaking. "Not for me, but for Marissa," she pleaded. "Please, she has nothing left." Olivia looked at her for a long moment. "You're right," she said softly. "She has nothing left. But that's not my fault." She turned away, her voice calm but final. "Family isn't blood, it's choice. And I've already chosen to leave the past behind." One late afternoon, with golden light spilling across the penthouse balcony, Julian stepped beside Olivia. No roses, no spotlight, just a small box in his hand, and honesty in his eyes. "We started this with a lie," he said softly, "but nothing I felt for you was ever pretend." Olivia stood still. The breeze played through her hair as her heartbeat slowed. Listening. Truly listening. Julian opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring, much like their love, quiet, unwavering, real. "Marry me?" he said. "For real this time?" She nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. "For the first time, I'm not afraid to believe in love again." A few days later, Olivia visited Daniel's grave, a quiet spot tucked beneath amber autumn leaves. She knelt, fingers brushing the cold stone. "Thank you for saving me in the only way you could." There were no more tears, only peace. No anger, no guilt. "I'll live the rest of my life, not out of hate, but from everything I've learned through losing you." And for the first time, she felt forgiveness. Not from him, but from herself. That night, Olivia and Julian sat together on the porch, the quiet sky above scattered with stars. No grand words, no more pretending, just two souls finally honest after everything. Olivia rested her head on his shoulder, eyes closed. "We've been through so much," she whispered, "and we're still here." Julian gently pulled her closer, his voice steady. "Not just here, together." They sat in silence, letting time stretch softly between them, as if the world had slowed just for this moment. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, like the universe itself was whispering what they'd both known deep down. Because sometimes, after all the storms, love arrives right on time.